For generations, we've gazed upon the Great Sphinx of Giza, a silent sentinel guarding the secrets of a forgotten age. Its stone eyes have witnessed millennia of history, from the rise and fall of pharaohs to the dawn of the modern world. We've been told a simple story, that this colossal monument was carved around 4,500 years ago by the Pharaoh Khafre. But what if that story, the one etched into our history books, is fundamentally wrong? What if the Sphinx is not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of years old? New evidence is emerging. Evidence that challenges everything we thought we knew about our own past, and the implications are absolutely devastating for the conventional narrative. The official story, the one you learned in school, is neat and tidy. It places the Sphinx squarely in the 4th dynasty, around 2500 BC, attributing its creation to Pharaoh Khafre, the builder of the 2nd largest pyramid at Giza. The primary reason for this attribution is proximity. The Sphinx sits right in front of Khafre's pyramid complex, and a causeway connects his pyramid to the valley temples situated before the Sphinx. Egyptologists also point to the so-called dream stele, erected by Thutmose, for much later, which mentions Khafre's name. However, this stele is recounting a dream and restoring the monument, not claiming original construction. The most compelling argument for Khafre's ownership has always been the supposed resemblance between the Sphinx's face and statues of the pharaoh. But look closely, compare them side by side. Are they truly the same person? Many forensic artists and sculptors say no. The facial structures are demonstrably different. But here's the most shocking part. There is not a single, solitary inscription, not one hieroglyph from the Old Kingdom, that claims Khafre or anyone from his era built the Sphinx. Not on the Sphinx itself, not in the adjacent temples, not anywhere. Think about it. The ancient Egyptians were meticulous record keepers. They inscribed everything, especially the grand achievements of their pharaohs. The pyramids are covered in texts, detailing their purpose and lineage. Yet for the largest monolithic statue on Earth, there is complete and utter silence. The entire case for Khafre building the Sphinx is circumstantial, built on proximity and a debatable facial similarity. It is a connection made by assumption, not be direct, irrefutable proof. This lack of contemporary evidence is a gaping hole in the official story, a hole big enough to drive a pyramid through. For decades, this official story has been challenged not by treasure hunters or conspiracy theorists, but by credentialed scientists. Schoch wasn't looking at statues or ancient texts. He was looking at the rock itself. He examined the Sphinx and, more importantly, the limestone enclosure walls from which it was carved. And what he found was unmistakable. The withering patterns on the body of the Sphinx and on the enclosure walls were not the result of wind and sand erosion, which you'd expect in a desert climate over 4,500 years. Wind erosion creates sharp, angular, horizontal patterns. Instead, Schoch found deep, vertical fissures and a rolling, undulating profile. This is classic, textbook evidence of precipitation-induced weathering. In other words, the Sphinx was weathered by massive amounts of rainfall over a very long period. Now, here's the critical point. The Giza Plateau hasn't seen that kind of rainfall for thousands of years. The climate there has been hyper-arid since well before Khafre's time. For the Sphinx to show this level of water damage, it had to have existed during a much earlier, wetter, climatic period, the last of which ended between 7,000 and 5,000 BC. This geological data pushes the origin of the Sphinx back thousands of years before the accepted timeline of Egyptian civilization. It suggests the monument was already ancient and heavily weathered by rain when Khafre came to power. The other structures on the Giza Plateau, the ones we know were built by Khafre and his contemporaries, show clear wind and sand erosion, not this profound water damage. The geology doesn't lie. The patterns are different because their histories are different. This isn't just a theory, it's a geological signature. That is the signature of water, carved into the Sphinx's cradle. But here is where the story takes its most radical turn. Forget everything you thought you knew about the Sphinx's age. The standard model, the one you read in history books, tells us the Sphinx is about 4,500 years old, a contemporary of the Pharaoh Khafre. But what if that's wrong? Not just by a few centuries, but by an almost unimaginable stretch of time. What if the true age of the Sphinx isn't measured in thousands of years, but in hundreds of thousands? The conventional story is neat and tidy. Khafre builds his pyramid, and as a finishing touch, he carves the colossal lion with a human head out of a single limestone outcrop. It's a powerful narrative, tying this incredible monument to a famous pharaoh. But a group of geologists looked at the Sphinx and didn't see a carving by human hands. They saw something else entirely: the unmistakable signature of water. Specifically, heavy, prolonged rainfall. They studied the deep, vertical fissures and the undulating, rounded weathering on the body of the Sphinx and the walls of its enclosure. This type of erosion, they argued, isn't caused by wind and sand, which creates sharp, layered patterns. This was the work of water. Torrents of heat flowing over the limestone for thousands of years. And here is the crucial part. When was the last time the Giza Plateau experienced that kind of rainfall? The answer sends shivers down your spine. You have to go back to a time before the Sahara was a desert. You have to rewind the clock past the last ice age, to a period known as the African Humid Period. We're talking about a time between 7,000 and 11,000 years ago. This theory alone would more than double the age of the Sphinx, placing it in a time when mainstream history says people were just beginning to experiment with agriculture. This rainfall erosion hypothesis sparked a firestorm of controversy. Egyptologists pushed back hard, defending the traditional timeline. They argued that other factors could explain the weathering, like local moisture or the specific quality of the limestone. The debate raged, with compelling arguments on both sides. On one hand, you have the historical record, the art style, the context of the Giza necropolis. On the other, you have geologists pointing to the stone itself and saying, the rock doesn't lie. This was carved before the rain stopped. But even that staggering idea of a 10,000-year-old Sphinx is just the beginning of the rabbit hole, because another theory, far more extreme, pushes the timeline back even further. This isn't just about erosion patterns. It's about a complete reevaluation of the site's geology and purpose. This fringe theory suggests that the initial carving of the Sphinx's body, the lion's form, without the head, dates back to a truly mind-bending period. Brace yourself for this number: 800,000 years. Let that sink in. Not 8,000. 800,000 years. To put that into perspective, 4,500 years is the blink of an eye. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, were only just emerging in Africa around 300,000 years ago. This theory suggests the Sphinx predates our own species. It would mean that some other, earlier form of human, or something else entirely, carved this monumental lion form at a time when Earth's climate and continents were vastly different. The basis for this incredible claim lies in a complex geological analysis and a different interpretation of the erosion, suggesting a far longer and more ancient process. It proposes that the structure we see today wasn't built all at once. Instead, it was an ancient landmark that was discovered and recarved thousands of years later. The theory goes that the Pharaoh Khafre didn't build the Sphinx. He just found it. He found this ancient, weather-beaten lion statue, half buried in sand, and decided to recarve its head in his own image, claiming this primordial monument for himself. This would explain why the Sphinx's head is so disproportionately small compared to its massive lion body. It wasn't the original design. It was a renovation. This is, without a doubt, the most extreme theory out there. It pushes the Sphinx out of the realm of human history as we know it and into a deep, prehistoric mystery. Hundreds of thousands of years before the first cities of before writing, before agriculture, was there a civilization advanced enough to quarry and shape a monument on this scale? The idea is so radical it's dismissed almost universally by mainstream academia. But the questions it raises are undeniably fascinating. The evidence for this radical rethinking doesn't just come from staring at the surface of the stone. Some of the most tantalizing clues come from what might lie beneath it. In the late 1990s, a team conducted seismic surveys around the Sphinx, using sound waves to map what's underground. Much like an ultrasound, they made a shocking discovery. Their data revealed a perfectly rectilinear, human-made chamber, hidden deep in the bedrock directly between the Sphinx's paws. This wasn't a natural cave or a geological anomaly. The seismic readings showed a large, empty space with sharp, right-angled corners. It was a vault, a chamber, and it seemed to have been placed there deliberately, in a location of incredible significance, right under the gaze of the great statue. This finding electrified the alternative history community, as it seemed to provide physical proof for one of the most legendary and sought-after myths associated with ancient Egypt. The myth I'm talking about is the legend of the Hall of Wreckers. According to prophecies from the famous American psychic Edgar Cayce, a hidden chamber lies near the Sphinx, containing the complete history of humanity, a lost library holding records from the mythical civilization of Atlantis. Cayce prophesied that these records would be rediscovered at the end of the 20th century, detailing advanced technologies and lost spiritual wisdom that would change the world forever. And then, right on schedule, geophysicists find a man-made chamber in that exact spot. The correlation was uncanny. Was this it? Was this the legendary vault of the Atlanteans? The team that found the anomaly was eager to drill an exploratory hole, to lower a camera and see what was inside. But permission to excavate was swiftly and firmly denied by the Egyptian authorities. The area around the Sphinx was declared off limits to further investigation of this kind. And so, the mystery endures. The chamber remains sealed, its contents unknown. Mainstream Egyptology suggests it's likely just a natural fissure or an undiscovered tomb of no great significance. But for others, it represents a profound possibility. It fuels the idea that the Sphinx is more than just a statue. It's a marker, a guardian, a lock on a door that leads directly into a forgotten chapter of human history. The official story is that there is nothing there. But the seismic data suggests otherwise. It paints a picture of a secret, waiting to be found. A purpose-built space, constructed by unknown hands for an unknown reason, locked away for millennia. The question that hangs in the air, heavy and tantalizing, is what secrets are so important that they need to be guarded by a monument as immense and enduring as the Sphinx? What knowledge could be so powerful that it remains hidden, even today? Just a few feet beneath the paws of the silent giant, we can only speculate about what might be found within. Then, we have the most glaring anomaly of all. The Sphinx's head. Have you ever noticed how strangely small it is, compared to its massive body? Orthodox Egyptologists will tell you it was carved by Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BC, but look closely. The proportions are all wrong for a lion's body. The head is tiny. This has led many researchers, like John Anthony West and Robert Schoch, to a startling conclusion. The head was The theory goes that the Sphinx was originally a complete lion, a true representation of the astrological age of Leo, dating back to at least 10,500 BC. Its original, much larger lion head would have been proportional to its body. Over thousands of years, as the original head suffered erosion along with the body, a later Pharaoh Khafre decided to claim this ancient monument for himself. What better way to immortalize yourself than by carving your own face onto the most ancient statue on Earth? It was a political statement, a way of co-opting a monument from a civilization so old, its memory was lost to time. Imagine a massive, perfectly proportioned lion, weathered by millennia of rain. Then, centuries later, a pharaoh's stonemasons climb up and chisel away the eroded lion face, reducing its size to create the human features we see today. It's the ultimate act of historical appropriation. The deeper we dig, the more the conventional story begins to crumble. We have water erosion in the middle of a desert, pointing to a time of heavy rainfall thousands of years before the pharaohs. We have geological evidence that places the monument's origins in a forgotten epoch. We have ancient texts, like the inventory stela, suggesting Khafre's predecessor found the Sphinx already there, buried in sand. We have the recent discovery of a library containing 800,000 texts in a city that traded with ancient Egypt, potentially holding answers we can't yet imagine. And we have the undeniable fact that the head is a later modification, an ancient act of vandalism on a monument far older than we've been led to believe. Each piece of evidence, on its own, is intriguing. But when you put them all together, a new picture emerges, a picture of a lost chapter in human history. The Sphinx isn't just a statue of a pharaoh. It is a silent witness, a time capsule from a forgotten world. It stands guard over secrets that could rewrite everything we think we know about our own past. It's not just a remnant of ancient Egypt. It's a remnant of a civilization that may have been the predecessor to all known ancient cultures. The Sphinx is challenging us to be curious, to ask questions, and to look beyond the accepted narrative. It's a riddle not just in stone, but in time itself. It forces us to confront the possibility that we are a species with amnesia. And this incredible monument holds the key to our forgotten memories. The question isn't just who built the Sphinx, but what history lies buried here, waiting to be read. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the past. If this mystery fascinates you as much as it does me, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the world's greatest enigmas. What are your thoughts on the Sphinx's true age? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep questioning.